Shalom, all praise to Yahweh Shem Shah, double line to the Apostle GMS. My name is Amnawa Allah. Coming at you with another lesson. Now, this lesson, I got the idea for the lesson to the spirit of Yahweh Shem Shah, because I was, watching some shows, and I saw a comment that someone left, and it said, what do you think about mixed people? I went to the person's page. The person sounded got an accent, sound like the, probably from, I'm not sure, I gotta watch it again. Probably like somewhere in Europe, probably like, from England somewhere, I'm not sure. But they asked a question saying, what do you think about mixed people? So I left a comment, and I said, according to the Bible, you are what your father is, Numbers 1:18. So according to the Bible, there is no such thing as being mixed. You are what your father is, regardless of how you look physically, which is true. And we're going to give examples into that, and I gave him some examples here as well. If you have a so-called black father and Vietnamese mother, if you come out looking like your mother, you're still an Israelite, like Chris Brown ex-girlfriend, Karachi, whatever the fuck her name is, or the rapper Logic or J. Cole, whose fathers are black, but their mothers are white. For example, think about it. The 12 tribes of Israel are all the 12 sons of Jacob, and Jacob's son Joseph had children with an Egyptian woman, Genesis 41, verse 50 to 52, but those children are Israelites, Ephraim and Manasseh. That's true. Let's get into these scriptures real quick. I'm going to go into a little bit more information as well. Numbers chapter 1:18. Numbers chapter 1, verse 18. And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward, by their polls. So it says, and they declared their pedigrees by their families, by the house of their fathers. So it was by the house of their fathers, by who their fathers were, not who their mothers are, because that's how the Most High deals. The Most High is dealing with men specifically. You are what your father is, because the father is the one that carries the seed, not the mother. Okay? So there's really no such thing as being mixed according to the Bible. You are what your father is. Alright? Let's look at the word pedigree real quick. Pedigree. Yalad. And it says to bear, bring forth, beget, gender, travail. Go back. To bear, bring forth, beget, gender, travail. To bear, bring forth, of childbirth. That's basically the point of childbirth. Alright? Wait 1 second. And here's the definition of the word pedigree. A better definition, it says pedigree, the record of descent of an animal showing it to be purebred. Like if a person has a pit bull or any type of dog, if you want to know about the pedigree, when you ask the pedigree of the dog, it asks for a record of the descent of that animal, showing it to be purebred, showing that this pit bull is purebred, showing that it's not a so-called mutt, that it doesn't have, the genes of other dogs in it, so to speak. The recorded ancestry, especially upper class ancestry of a person or family. And when you go down to dictionary.com, see it says the word means crane's foot, used to denote succession and pedigree. This is the etymology. And it says an ancestral line of descent, lineage, ancestry, a genealogical table, chart list or record, especially of a purebred animal. And Merriam-Webster says a table or list showing the line of ancestors of a person or animal. So going back here, when it says and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, it's saying, and they declared their ancestry of their family by the house of their fathers, or they declared their genealogical line after their family by the house of their fathers. Let's give more examples of this. Let's go to the book of Genesis 49. This is Joseph when Joseph was in the land of Egypt, right? This is Joseph. This is Genesis 41, verse 50. And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, bare unto him. Who was Asenath? Asenath, Asenath, belonging to the goddess Neith, the wife of Joseph, of Egyptian derivation. Okay, let's go. See, that's an Egyptian name. She was Egyptian. Okay, now let's go. Let's finish reading that verse, or read that verse again at least. And unto Joseph, and unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of Un, bare unto him. This is what's his name? Potipharah, Pawataya, Parai, and it says, he whom Ra gave, an Egyptian priest of Un, father of Asenath, the wife whom Pharaoh gave to Joseph. So Asenath was Egyptian, and her father was Egyptian. Okay? Asenath was Egyptian, and the father was Egyptian. Let me go to On real quick, see what that says. Awan. That's Awan in Hebrew. It says, strength of vigor, city in Lower Egypt, bordering land of Goshen, center of sun worship, residence of Potipharah, priest of On, and father-in-law of Joseph. So he was a priest of On, meaning he was a sun worshipper. Okay? Which was in On, which On was a city in Lower Egypt. So Potipharah was a sun worshipper in a city in Lower Egypt. Okay? But guess what? And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for the Most High said, he hath made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. Manasseh, that means made to forget. And he's an Israelite. And the name of the second called he Ephraim, Aparium, which means he is fruitful, or I am fruitful. Okay, it means I am fruitful. For the Most High caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. So you see that right there? His 2 sons were Israelites. As a matter of fact, let me get something real quick. Okay. Looking for a particular scripture. Let me see. And when you go into Genesis 48, it tells you this goes in. I'm not going to read it. I'll just read this verse. Genesis 48:17. And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him, and he held up his father's hands to remove it from Ephraim's head unto Manasseh's head. And Joseph said unto his father, not so, my father, for this is the firstborn, put thy right hand upon his head. And his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great, but truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. So Ephraim's will be greater than Manasseh. Ephraim is who? The so-called Puerto Ricans. Manasseh is the so-called Cubans. And if you look at it, their flags are similar as well. I'm not going to go too deep into the tribes, because that's not the point of this lesson. This is just a passage in which you could say Ephraim and Manasseh, you could say they was adopted in, which they were already Israelites, because the 12 tribes, the tribes that came directly out of Jacob were not Ephraim and Manasseh. Those are his other sons, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and so forth. Those are the ones that came direct. Judah, you had Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Ephraim, Gad. You had Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Gad, Reuben, Joseph, Benjamin. You had Dan. You had Naphtali. You had Asher, and you had Zebulon. Those are the ones that originally came out of Jacob. That's 11. And then you got Manasseh and Ephraim, 12 and 13. But Dan, you could say Dan was, we don't even know what happened with Dan. But Dan, because in Hebrew, were Dan, which means judge. And all of the tribes are judges. So Dan could have been mingled in amongst the rest of the tribes. Okay? So if we would take Dan out, so if we take Dan out of that so-called of that 13, that would make 12, right? If you take Dan out of that 13, then that would make 12. And if you um take Joseph out, that would be 11. Hold, let me get my math correct. Judah, Benjamin, Levi, um, Asher, Naphtali, Zebulon, Gad, Reuben, Dan. Hold on 1 second. Because Ephraim and Manasseh, they would not direct. Ephraim and Manasseh didn't directly come out of Jacob. They didn't directly come out of Jacob. All right. They came out of Joseph. So now when you go into it, the tribes that came directly out of Jacob was Judah, Benjamin, Simeon, Levi, Gad, Reuben, Issachar, Naphtali, Asher, Dan, and Zebulun. I'm going to say it again if I missed anything. Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Simeon, Issachar, Gad, Reuben, Asher, Naphtali, Zebulun, and Dan. That was that 11. And remember, you had Joseph, right? Now, Dan comes from the Hebrew word, which that would make 12. Now, Dan comes from the Hebrew word dun, which means judge. So Dan can be mingled in amongst the rest of the tribes. We don't know what happened with Dan. So Dan would have to be probably mingling amongst the rest of the tribes. But if you took Dan out of that 12, then that would make 11. Now, remember, Joseph, let me go get something real quick. Now, remember, Joseph, so that would make 11, right? Now, Joseph had who? Ephraim and Manasseh, which will make 12 and 13. But when you go to the history, that'll make 12 and 13. But if Joseph represents Ephraim and Manasseh, then you'll take Joseph out of that 13, and it will be 12. Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Ephraim, Simeon, Gad, Reuben, Issachar, Naphtali, Zebulun, Asher, and whenever you name the 12 tribes at the top of the head, sometimes it's kind of like you forget. Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Ephraim, Simeon, Manasseh. My phone, how's it going on? Alright, I'm back. So that will make Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Ephraim, Simeon, Manasseh, Gad, Reuben, Issachar, Naphtali. Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Ephraim, Simeon, Manasseh, Gad, Reuben, Naphtali, Zebulun. So that will make, I'm back now. So that will make Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Ephraim, Manasseh, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Simeon, Ephraim, Manasseh, Gad, Reuben, Issachar, Naphtali, Zebulun, and Asher. Okay? And when you read the scripture, I'm trying to find it, but it says, namely Ephraim. This is the children of Joseph, namely Ephraim. See if I can find it. One second. Yeah, Numbers 132. It probably was there. I wasn't even paying attention. Of the children of Joseph, namely of the children of Ephraim, by their generations after their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go to war. So it said of namely of Ephraim. So Joseph represents Ephraim, to be more specific, because Ephraim was he represents both Ephraim and Manasseh, but Ephraim was the prominent one, the more prominent of the two. Let's give you more examples. This is 1 Kings 14:21. And Rehoboam the son of Solomon reigned in Judah. Rehoboam was 41 years old when he began to reign. So he was the son of Solomon of Judah, right? Who was the son of David. He was of the tribe of Judah, right? Him and his father. Um, uh, David and Solomon. And he reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city which the Lord did choose out of all the tribes of Israel to put his name there. And his mother's name was Naamah and Ammonitess. So Rehoboam's father was Solomon, right? But his mother was Naamah and Ammonitess. Now wait a minute. So you're telling me the Most High set up a heathen over the children of Israel? He set up a so-called mixed breed over the children of Israel? That don't make no sense. His father was Judah, because he is what his father is. Mind you, he was a king who reigned in Judah. Come on now, he was a Judite. Because guess what? Proof of that is this. Deuteronomy 17 and 15. Thou shalt not in any wise set him king over thee, whom the Lord thy power shall choose. Thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom the Lord thy power shall choose. One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee. Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother. So a stranger, someone of another nation, was not supposed to rule over us. That's going off. So if Rehoboam was king over Judah, he had to be one of us. He had to be our brother. That's what it said, right? Set him king. Him king, not queen. You should not set nobody that's not thy brother. That means what? The Most High right there don't got ain't no queens in Israel. It's only kings. And he ain't supposed to set no stranger over you. Okay? He ain't supposed to set a stranger over you. So that means Rehoboam had to have been an Israelite. His mother was an Ammonite, which would be a so-called Japanese today, but his father was a Judite, King Solomon. So he was able to reign. And that's made the points I want to get into with the scriptures. Oh, one more thing. Because some idiot tried to come at me a couple years back. You know them dudes that was out there with them dude named Teleselekia, whatever the hell them guy's name was. And they used to call people Zamzas, something like that. They would say that people were mixed breeds. Now, I brought that scripture out to them years ago. This probably was like 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago. I brought the scripture on the comment board, and they said, oh, well, Naamah, that was a city in the land of Judah. She was a Judite. Now, that is true. That is a city in the land of Judah when you go to Joshua, the 15th chapter. But guess what? I brought this up to the Spirit. Genesis 4:22. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal king, and instructor of every artificer in brass and iron. And the sister of Tubal king was Naamah. So she was so you had a woman named Naamah before the children of Israel even existed. I'm back. I had to go in and out. If the screen go like I'm jumping from, see the mouse key over here and see it over here, that means I had to pause the video and do something, some technical stuff. But anyway, so what about that?